Look, I'll call you back. I didn't realise you were going to be filming this bit. I'll be filming everything.
Sorry, do you want me to turn off?
No, that's alright. Just caught me off guard, that's all.
Okay.
So, I'm here, am I?
Yes, please, Mr. Thompson, take a seat.
Thank you.
I'm terribly sorry. We were expecting you for another 10 minutes.
Right, whatever then. Shall we get going? Use our extra time.
Okay. Man up, John.
Alright.
Hello and welcome. This is interview number 16 of the Web Cabinet discussion series held here at Sheffield University. Today we're joined by the youngest member of the Cabinet, who indeed holds the youngest position, Dr. Brendan Thompson, MP.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Now, your presence in the Cabinet is highly significant, Minister, because you're the first classified A person to serve the government. Could you explain for our future audience members what this means?
Certainly. Well, prior to my conception, my parents had their genomes mapped, and any defective genes were ironed out.
So you're a superhuman?
No, that's not true. I'm not a designer person. There was no positive selection of traits, just a negative selection of those that might lead to problems later in life. For example, my parents had a slight disposition towards short-sightedness, and that gene was targeted and removed and replaced with one associated with strong, robust eyesight.
I have to say, Minister, I am astounded by how young you look.
Yes. Well, I'm not entirely convinced by this. I only celebrated my 35th birthday a couple of weeks ago. There really is nothing between us genetically. It's just my genome has been coded, so basically I'm free from any hereditary health problems.
But it's true you were screened for genes associated to low IQs?
Yes. Well, I think we can both agree that substandard intelligence is a genetic defect.
A genetic defect?
Well, let me put it this way. Darwinism doesn't spare the stupid. Strong doesn't just refer to physical strength.
But don't you think that kind of thought is leading to a quite dark and dangerous place?
Please, let's try not to be alarmist about this. I'm not talking about culling a population of lower IQs. All I'm saying is that it's a good idea in general to give our children the best intelligence that we can.
I think the crux of the matter is the legislation you're introducing.
Okay everyone, well thanks for making it in today. Appreciate that it's hot as hell outside, but hey, at least we've got the aircon working inside it.
Why are we making do with a whiteboard? This isn't the 1950s. Why haven't we got a display screen in here?
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. It's a bit annoying, isn't it? Well, I'm afraid this building's up for refurb, but as you know, the university's got bugger all money at the moment, so we have to be a little bit Stone Age for a while.
This is just unacceptable. This wouldn't happen at Hong Kong.
This isn't China. Some of us would be glad for a blackboard.
I know you. You're the sea.
Is that true? Yes, I'm a C. I have a slight heart condition, and I'm on the dyslexic spectrum, but only just. I should be classed a B.
I think you're a credit to your class for being here.
It's positive discrimination. You better hope they don't decide to pass the Sterilisation Act.
Zoe, don't worry. They will never pass that act in a million years.
Really? They're deliberating on it now. I've got my channel tuned into the Parliament feed in case we get a decision.
Look, it'll be weeks and weeks and weeks, and the answer will be no, we're not going to do it. So please don't be stupid. And leave your naked prejudice out of this room, please.
Are we going to be looking at the sterilisation argument?
Yeah, it's on the module, but for today, I think we're just going to focus on the source material, which is the Thompson interviews. Of course, we've got a very special person in the room for that.
As you may know, my father is Brendan Thompson, and I am the first Class A+ student to be admitted here in Sheffield. It will be my return to education after my retirement from the track team.
Arabella, as you may remember, has represented Team GB at the last 2 Olympic Games. She's won 3 gold medals, 1 silver and 2 bronze. And we're very lucky to have her with us today. One thing that we're going to be looking at, actually, is the IOC's decision to allow Class A+ people to compete in the Games.
That's a disgrace, sir. I mean, sorry, no disrespect, but us Class A's have just had defective genes removed. You A+'s, your parents specifically selected genes so that you would be champion athletes and have a massive IQ.
C's struggle to get a meaningful job nowadays. The best employers won't even employ B's. If you want your child to be successful, you can't just rely upon an A swipe. It's getting so cheap nowadays. If you want to guarantee success, you need to go for an A+.
But where does it all end?
I agree. I mean, I'm an A, so I can't speak from the same position as you, but might we all become obsolete? Even you?
That's a very good moral point, and one that we're going to be studying in more detail in week 5. But for today, let's just tune our terminals into course material week 1, and yeah, let's have a look.
Look, we can't have it both ways. The Northern Hemisphere is just about avoiding collapse on the strength of our genetically modified produce. But we are weak, economically speaking. Peace was very much dictated on Chinese terms.
I think we can both agree that the world climate and indeed the economic climate don't favour the UK.
Well, look at the United States. They have fallen to being the 3rd largest economic bloc behind the Russians, while we have made a surge up to 7th, and that is on the back of our high-tech, sophisticated industries.
Very critical of the US.
Well, they had the right idea, but when the going got tough, they elected a Christian fundamentalist. Compare their health stats to ours now, you'll see that theirs are slowly falling, while ours are slowly but surely getting better.
So what you're saying is...
Well, the point of enshrining the classification system is to actively encourage A selections. The initial cost will be huge, but the investment is monumental. Consider this: A's cost the health sector about half what B's cost, a fraction of what C's cost, and, well, the less said about D's and E's, the better, really.
You're linking the productivity of our economy on the presence of A's.
Yes, that's true. Since the introduction of A's, the quality of our labour force has been dramatically improved.
But what you're proposing enables employers to gain access to the genetic profile of anyone applying for a job. But with your legislation, you'll make it perfectly legal for companies to discriminate on genetic grounds.
And why not?
Why not? We can't start turning people away from jobs on account of their genes.
Look, I realise this is a touchy issue, but I'm not talking about Nazi racial differentiation here. All I'm saying is that under modern global conditions, only a fully evolved human race can survive.
But what you're suggesting potentially damns a large proportion of our population on the basis of their chromosomes.
I cannot stress this enough. If you approach the situation rationally, you will see that this is the only solution. We simply cannot afford to allow defective genes to prosper. We must privilege an untainted genome.
But surely what you're suggesting, potentially damns a large proportion of our population on the basis of their chromosomes.
If you approach the situation rationally, you'll see that this is the only solution. We simply cannot afford to keep bringing defective genes along with us. We must privilege an untainted genome.
Surely this move is unethical in the extreme. Especially because legislation will only be the start.
I'm afraid we don't have the luxury of being sentimental about this. Darwin made the most revolutionary discovery when he allowed us mastery over the human genome, over the natural world, but I'm afraid we are still part of that world, and we must abide by its rules. Nature doesn't spare the weak.
But Darwin himself strongly opposed to the application of his theory in a social context. He explicitly said it should not be used as a justification for abandoning the weak.
Darwin was a genius, but he lived in a more sentimental age. Tried to be empirical, logical and rational, and you will see that my approach is actually supremely moral.
So, as you can see, there was a significant moral debate.
So they used the rational defence?
I'll be quiet, it's perfectly rational.
But what about the human rights issue? Since the Genetic Screening Act, employment of C-class people in top bracket jobs has halved in 5 years. It's set at... Sorry, I don't have the figure.
It's about 5 or 6%, I think.
It's 2.3% from the last calendar year, which is a slight increase from about 2 years ago when it was 1.9%.
That's too high, I reckon.
What makes you say that?
Well, you've got these sentimental liberal types, cooperative, for example, who refuse to exercise their genetic screening powers. How can humanity be expected to evolve when genetic dead ends are allowed a living? It drags the economy down, it drags the whole species down.
Those people do a damn good job. Anyone Class C has to work 10 times harder.
10 times harder to be mediocre.
Okay, let's not turn this into a personal argument.
The point you've all missed is that the planet has hit the Malthusian ceiling.
I'm sorry?
Thomas Malthus, He developed the idea that the human population could only reach a certain limit before it would exhaust the resources available for food production.
I bet he was an A.
See what I mean? She shouldn't even be allowed in the building, except to clean the toilets.
I won't tell you again, Mr. Clark.
What does he mean?
Malthus lived in the 17th century.
Does she know any history? I bet she doesn't even know who Barack Obama was.
I've heard the name.
Oh, that is a classic!
Enough! I didn't know who Malthus was.
Oh, you're a B, aren't you? You're bound to make mistakes, but at least you've ensured that your children won't.
What's the square root of 1,764?
What?
You're an A, you should know.
You don't even know.
42, that's the meaning of life.
Eh? What?
Douglas Adams.
Who?
Seems like I'm not the only obsolete one in the room.
Okay, everybody, let's not turn this into an argument now. Let's get back on topic. Arabella, I actually think you had a good point going there. Do you mind carrying on?
My father makes the same point at time code 14 minutes 11 seconds.
Ah, right.
But surely if we do what you're suggesting, if we exclude everyone class D and E, and if we discriminate against Cs, we are abandoning a significant amount of our people. Surely we run the risk of losing our humanity, the compassion which sets us apart.
I'm afraid that kind of thinking is a luxury that we simply cannot afford. The planet is on the verge of dying. It cannot support the current human population. We are like locusts, swarming across the planet's skin, consuming everything it has. The entire ecosystem will collapse within 2 generations if we do not make the change now.
There's been climate change for decades, and we're still here.
You don't cry for the population of the tropics.
That was a tragedy.
Yes, but we left them behind so that the rest of the human race could continue.
The fire in the tropics was a natural disaster. Well, we didn't make a conscious decision to let 2 billion people burn.
Well, in the early 2000s, the leader of the industrial nations knew that by continuing their dependence on fossil fuels, they risked making large portions of this planet uninhabitable.
The Westacom refugees, millions.
Yes, they did, all useful. The powerful, the intelligent, the wealthy. Those that would add to what we already had. The lateral zones lived on while the tropics rotted in the heat.
I concede you have a point, but climate change is done.
Only a fool would believe that. If the solid methane layer is unleashed, the temperature rise of the last few years will look mild by comparison. Temperatures will skyrocket. The current population has reduced its carbon emissions, but not by enough. We currently stand at about 3.4 billion people on this planet, and by our calculations, that stands at about 1 billion too many.
So, what are you suggesting?
Well, in the long term, we need to reduce our population. Now, China is on board with this plan, so it doesn't really matter what the United States thinks.
Is that a part of the Genetic Screening Act?
No. I'm very much speaking in the abstract.
Oh my god, your father had a Sterilisation Act planned all along.
It was obvious. Anyone could have told you. He never meant to hide it as such.
Ha! He's a genius.
Does that mean the Act will pass? Will that affect the module?
The module? They'll have me sterilised!
Look, don't worry. Brendan Thompson is only in the Lords. He's not the PM.
The PM supports it too. I'm sorry, it's for the future of the race.
Yeah, they should have introduced this years ago. Anyway, God, hardly surprising she'd believe in such a fairy tale.
They can't do this! What about my human rights?
Human rights are relative concepts. We've only been observed for 0.2% of the time that humans have ever lived.
No, look, I mean, human rights, we all have to respect them. And human life is precious after all.
No, it isn't. All a human being is a collection of genes animated by a web of energy. The human brain is a complex neural net, a biological computer to service the needs of gene sequences.
Look, I think there's a bit more to human life than that.
You don't think, you just want to believe.
Shut up, we don't want to hear this nihilistic bollocks. You don't have any grounds for saying any of this.
I'm sorry if this makes you feel all uncomfortable, but it's not nihilism, it's just... I see the beauty of the genome, the majesty of the mastery over it. All our consciousness is a byproduct of that. The genome needs to live on. If we don't reduce the human population within the next 50 years, the entire ecosystem will collapse. The methane layer is already showing signs of disintegration.
What's the cost? Don't I have any rights?
people have any say in this? I mean, aren't they worth something? Don't they have any value? Isn't our very humanity at stake here? How can we go on if we sacrifice entire lives? Don't they have a right to life?
Well...
No, they don't.
I don't accept that.
Look at it rationally. They're just frightened animals. They're more sophisticated than cows, but like cows, they are subject to the needs of superior beings.
Ah, yes, now I see what you mean. Scientific superiority of the A.
Please keep your mouth shut, you odious little man. You would consider the Anglo-Saxons scientifically superior if you didn't have seas to direct your petty prejudice at.
Look, I've had enough of all
Oi.
this.
Hey, let him go! Let him go!
He was going to assault me.
Well, he won't now.
How do you live with yourself?
I don't have the mechanism associated with the guilt reflex.
Your parents tried to make you a brain box, but they just succeeded in turning you into a computer.
Don't take it so personally. I don't mean you any harm. It's just, if we want the species to evolve, we're going to have to accept the Sterilisation Act and the acts that will follow.
You mean there's more? Will they be covered on the module?
Will you shut up about the module? There's more important things going on here. There'll be more.
I believe so. I'm well informed.
You can't be serious.
Look, it hasn't passed, it won't pass.
Hold on, there's a feed coming through. Oh yes, get in. Hope you like scissors, because you're getting cut.
Right, that's it. Get out! Get out of my classroom, you ignorant little bastard! Go on, get out! Now! Yeah, here we are. Look, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
If we take it to its logical conclusion, if we take it far enough down this road, which, by just taking these first steps, we're compelled to do, we risk what it means to be human. We risk disconnection. I mean, we risk losing humanity. Just think what that word means. You'll turn us into something cold, alien, something not human.
Well, I'm afraid that's the choice we are faced with. Evolution or extinction.